all of you for being here. And this hearing on the Subcommittee on Readiness and Management Support will come to order. I want to thank Ranking Member Kane for your leadership on defense issues, including infrastructure, energy, and environmental programs, which is what our hearing is about today. We are joined this afternoon by Mr. Peter Potocny, performing the duties of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Energy, Installations, and Environment. We are joined by Assistant Secretary of the Army for Installations, Energy, and the Environment, the Honorable Catherine Hammock. Wonderful to see you, Secretary Hammock. We are also joined by Secretary McGinn, and certainly the Assistant Secretary of the Navy for Energy, Installations, and Environment. And we are joined by Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Installations, Energy, and Environment, Secretary Ballantyne. So thank you all for being here today and for your service to our country. We really appreciate it. As we prepare for the committee markup of the National Defense Authorization Act, the focus of today's hearing is on the state of our military installations and the administration's budget requests for military construction, facilities sustainment and restoration, energy projects, and environmental remediation and management. As I've said before, well-maintained and modern Department of Defense installations are critical to maintaining the readiness of our armed forces. That is why we must carefully scrutinize the Department's military construction and facilities sustainment, restoration, and modernization funding requests. While we must continually root out waste and inefficiency and scrutinize the need for every proposed project, I am concerned that a defense budget based on artificial budget caps rather than our national security interests is forcing each of the services to postpone important facility projects that our troops need. The services are being forced to take risks in facility investments in order to understandably prioritize near-term readiness requirements for our men and women in uniform. One of the purposes of this hearing is to better understand the consequences over time of underfunding facility accounts. As you point out in your written testimony, Mr. Potocny, almost 27% of the department's facility inventory is in poor or failing condition. The condition of readiness centers in New Hampshire is particularly unacceptable. According to the December 2014 Army National Guard study, the average condition index of New Hampshire Army National Guard readiness centers is poor, 64 out of 100 scale, ranking New Hampshire 51 out of 54 states and territories that have been evaluated nationwide. After repeatedly raising concerns about the need for military construction projects in New Hampshire to support our Army National Guard, I am very, very pleased that the Army has requested funding for much-needed vehicle maintenance shops in Hooksett and Rochester for fiscal year 2017, so I thank you for that. I also look forward to authorizing those needed projects in this markup, as well as projects at the Pease Air National Guard Base, Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, and other bases around the country in my Readiness Subcommittee mark and working with my colleagues to provide timely funding. I look forward to discussing some budget requests that require additional scrutiny, including the request for $6.1 million for a microgrid project in California that department documents say will support non-essential functions, so I would like to understand more about that request. While I recognize that the Obama administration has once again requested another round of base realignment and closure, BRAC, I continue to oppose another BRAC round for many reasons. As I've said before, according to the Government Accountability Office, the 2005 BRAC round process cost 67% more than originally anticipated. And even after acknowledging the shortcomings of the 2005 round, the department continues to request another BRAC round. I do not want to give the department the open-ended authority to pursue another BRAC round that will potentially incur significant upfront costs when we do not have the room in our budget in the next few years to afford many fundamental readiness investments that are right before us. Also, our military is currently sized based on artificial budget caps instead of being sized to protect our national security interests from the threats we face. And certainly we've had testimony before this committee by the vice chiefs of staff of each of our forces discussing the concerns they have about the size of our force and our readiness. In short, there is a significant and dangerous gap between the military we have and the military we need. Therefore, I don't believe at this point it makes sense to authorize a round of base closures when many of us are hopeful that regardless of the outcome of this coming election, that the next administration will align its proposed defense budget and the size of our military to the growing threats we face and will need many of the bases that DoD may currently want to close. I will also say it'll be up to us in the Congress to address sequestration and to make sure that sequestration does not go back into effect. And we will need to do that on a bipartisan basis, and I look forward to working on that. So I will not be including the authority to conduct a background in the Readiness Subcommittee mark of the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year of 2017. Regarding environmental programs, I look forward to getting an update from you, Secretary Ballantyne, regarding the recent agreement with the City of Portsmouth, as well as the Air Force's compliance with the Environmental Protection Agency's directive to restore the Pease aquifer. And I appreciate that the Air Force has really negotiated with the city to come to this outcome, and I look forward to hearing about it. I look forward to the testimony of our witnesses and to continuing our work together to ensure that each of the service's military construction, energy, and environmental programs are well designed and appropriately funded to support our service members, military families, combat readiness, and our national security. I thank our witnesses again for being here today and for their leadership and service to our country in challenging times. And I look forward to your testimony. With that, I would like to call on my ranking member, Senator Kane. I made him chairman already. Senator Kane for his opening statements. Thank you, Senator Kane.